The morning sun shimmered off the silver wings of a grounded jet. Evelyn Hayes, billionaire CEO dressed in white silk and diamonds, stood on the runway, furious. Her flight to London was delayed, her patience already gone. "Where is the chief engineer?" she barked. From beneath another plane, a man emerged, his coveralls stained, his hands black with grease. Malik Carter, 34, the only mechanic on duty. He wiped his hands on a faded red rag and looked up, calm and steady. Evelyn's lip curled. "You? You're the one they sent?" Malik didn't answer. He just looked at the smoking jet engine, then at his worn wristwatch, and nodded once, as if the noise, the heat, and her arrogance were just background static. He climbed the ladder. Tools in hand, his movements sure, unhurried. Sparks flashed. The smell of burning oil filled the air. Then, the engine roared back to life. The crowd gasped. Evelyn froze, her disbelief melting into something she hadn't felt in years, admiration. But she had no idea. This man she mocked was about to save more than her flight. Malik Carter's days began before sunrise and ended long after the sky turned black. He worked at a small private airfield outside Atlanta, a place where the hum of engines was constant and the smell of jet fuel clung to everything. His toolbox was always organized, every wrench in its place, his father's old wristwatch ticking softly against the noise. He did not just fix planes, he fixed dreams. Local kids from the neighborhood often wandered into his hangar after school. Malik would show them how an engine breathes, how every piece, no matter how small, mattered. But once they left, he went back to reality. Unpaid bills, a sick mother in a small apartment, and a salary that barely kept him afloat. That morning, his coffee had gone cold again. He was finishing repairs on a cargo jet when the sound of heels clicking against metal broke the rhythm. Evelyn Hayes had arrived, surrounded by her assistants, her perfume slicing through the thick air. Her tone was sharp. "My jet leaves in 5 minutes. Get it ready or I'll find someone who can." Malik turned toward her, calm as ever. Around them, the other mechanics looked down, pretending to be busy. No one wanted to challenge her. He nodded silently, grabbed his tools, and climbed toward the smoking engine. She crossed her arms, muttering to her aide, "This is what happens when you hire unqualified staff." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of burnt oil and arrogance through the air. Malik worked quickly, focused, every movement deliberate. Sparks crackled as his wrench struck metal, then a bright flash. The first spark flew from the engine, but it was not the plane that caught fire. It was her pride. Malik knelt by the jet engine, his eyes tracing every bolt and panel. The hum of nearby turbines filled the runway, but his focus cut through it like a blade. Evelyn stood behind him, arms crossed, impatience radiating like heat. "Well?" she snapped. "Do you even know what you're doing?" He didn't respond. His hands moved with quiet confidence, checking wires, tracing lines, listening to the machine's pulse. Sweat ran down his temple and onto the red rag hanging from his pocket. "You're wasting time," she said. "We could have called someone qualified. Still nothing. Just the rhythm of his tools against steel. Click, turn, tighten." She noticed the broken wristwatch on his arm, its glass cracked, hands frozen at 3:17. "Why wear that junk?" she asked. He paused for a second, then said softly, "It belonged to my father. He built planes before I fixed them." The laughter caught in her throat. For a brief moment, she said nothing. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of fuel and rain, then a hiss cut through the air. Fuel was leaking beneath the left wing. One wrong move and the entire runway could ignite. Everyone backed away, but Malik slid under the plane, unbothered. His movements were sharp, controlled, like a surgeon in chaos. Evelyn's eyes widened. Her arrogance was fading, replaced by something new, fear. He shouted, "Kill the auxiliary power!" The crew scrambled, following his commands without hesitation. Sparks flashed again. Evelyn gasped as the engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. A clean, perfect hum filled the runway. For a long moment, no one spoke. The storm clouds rolled above them, but the air felt strangely calm. Her voice trembled now, softer. Where did you learn that? Malik looked up from the ladder, eyes steady. Air Force, before they laid me off. The words hit her harder than she expected. The same man she'd insulted had once protected people like her. Her gaze fell to the ground, shame rising in her chest. He didn't gloat, didn't even look at her. Just packed his tools in silence. What would you do if you were there? Stay quiet under insult, or prove them wrong. Before Evelyn could speak, her phone rang. She turned away, irritation in her tone, but as she listened, her face went pale. Her hands shook. What did you say? Everyone watched her freeze in place, the color draining from her face. But just as she began to thank him, one phone call would change everything. Evelyn's phone slipped from her hand. Her assistant caught it mid-air, listening briefly before his face drained of color. Ma'am, your other jet. It just went down, mid-flight. The world seemed to tilt. Evelyn's knees wobbled, her voice vanished. Malik caught her arm before she hit the ground. The roar of engines and the sharp scent of burning oil surrounded them, but his calm cut through the noise. He guided her to a seat, then turned toward the control tower. Get me the flight channel now, he ordered. His tone wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The same crew that ignored him minutes ago now moved without hesitation. Flight 47, this is ground control, he said into the radio. Steady. Check secondary hydraulics. Reroute fuel line Bravo through manual valve. His instructions rolled out sharp and clear. Every command was surgical. Every second mattered. The staff scrambled, following his every word. Evelyn watched, unable to speak. Watching the man she'd mocked moments ago command the entire airfield with the precision of a leader. Minutes later, confirmation came through. Emergency landed. Everyone safe. The airfield fell silent again, not from tension this time, but awe. Malik lowered the radio, breathing out slowly. He removed his gloves, laying them gently across the wing. The grease on his hands looked like battle scars, proof of everything he'd carried quietly. He turned toward her, voice low but unshaken. Sometimes, he said, the ones fixing things are the ones the world broke first. Evelyn stared at him, no longer a CEO above a mechanic, but a woman looking at a man who had just saved lives. The silence between them was thick, sacred. Share this if you still believe real respect is earned in silence, not titles. Then Evelyn stepped forward. Eyes wet, voice trembling. Her next words, a witness whispered later, stunned everyone on that runway. The storm had passed. The sky above the runway was clear again, a soft orange glow stretching across the horizon. Evelyn stood still, the wind catching her hair, her eyes fixed on Malik. She stepped closer, voice trembling. I was wrong about you. Malik didn't smile. He simply nodded, his voice calm and even. You were wrong about a lot of people like me. The words hit her harder than any insult could. For a long moment she said nothing, then slowly removed the gold bracelet from her wrist. It gleamed faintly under the setting sun. She placed it into his hand. If you ever start your own company, she said softly, call me first. Malik looked down at the bracelet, then back at her. I don't want your money, ma'am, he said. Just a fair chance. A faint laugh escaped her, shaky but real. Then marry me instead. The crew burst into surprised laughter, but she didn't entirely mean it as a joke, and he didn't entirely dismiss it as one. He smiled gently. I already have a commitment to fixing what's broken. Weeks later, a new hangar opened on the edge of the same airfield. The sign above the door read Carter Aviation Repair. The sound of wrenches echoed again, steady, familiar, hopeful. Evelyn came by often, not as a CEO giving orders, but as a friend. Her private jet, now maintained by Malik's team, sat gleaming nearby, a symbol of respect earned, not bought. One afternoon, she took her first flight since that day. Malik was in the cockpit, calm, focused, at peace. As the jet lifted smoothly into the sky, she looked at him and smiled. Guess you really did save my flight, she said quietly. He replied without looking away from the horizon. Some things are meant to stay grounded until the world's ready to see them fly. The clouds parted, sunlight streaming across the wings, bright, unbroken, endless. Subscribe for more stories where humility flies higher than wealth. What if the person you mocked today was the one keeping your world from falling apart?